Welcome back to Ali, Atrévete a lo Imposible, Season 2. Today we have Joel Torres. Really excited to have you on.
Thank you.
Extremely hyped. You're our first Hondureño to come on, first Catracho.
Yeah.
So super excited to have you. Let's go ahead and get into it.
Yeah.
Who is Joel Torres?
Well, first I gotta say, no pueblo es más macho que el pueblo catracho. For all my catrachos out there. But Joel Torres, I am, I guess, Hondureño from American-Hondureño, born and raised in West Los Angeles. So originally from California area, youngest of five. So I could say I'm a first generation Latino from my parents migrated here, but in actuality, they're already kind of established. So I would say my two oldest brothers or my oldest siblings and my sister are more first generation. By the time I was conceived and born, they already kind of were established in America. So we already had a house. My brothers kind of had it little. They came from Puerto Rico, and my parents moved to Puerto Rico to Honduras, from Honduras to Puerto Rico, then to LA, and they grew up in the project. So I would say they had it a lot tougher. I was way more established, but I'm a kid who grew up on Latino values. My parents taught me, kid who was taught that hard work and perseverance are key, but to also try to be a good person. Through my parents are real religious and was raised Jehovah's Witness, and then someone his dad, both parents had a strong influence. My dad, profound one in the way to view life, and then I moved to South Carolina, and now I'm stuck here, 30-year mortgage and wife, and I'm a Southern boy now, saying y'all. In a nutshell. But yeah, I'm just like I said, someone who is trying to love the journey of life. So.
So I actually am really personally curious to deep
Yeah.
dive into a specific topic.
Yeah.
And this might catch you by surprise, but this is what I remember from you at a young age. You were
You were a kid, yeah. I remember. I know.
we met.
A couple times. I remember you were at my brother's old house a couple times.
Yeah,
Yeah. You
yeah.
little girl. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Time flies.
So I remember you were super energetic, and I think you 100% still are, and
Yep.
just like ready to go get whatever's out there, you know. So I really admire that attitude and the way you carry yourself. I think it's something that I would like to take, and I'm excited to have this conversation to not only learn from you but also understand, where it comes from, and kind of understand you more as a person and as an individual. But here's my question.
Yeah.
Well, not my question, a statement. You were a swimming instructor
Yeah.
for
years.
how many years?
Yeah. So so originally, I guess when I was younger, I was known to have a temper, actually, believe it or not. And so me and mom actually butted heads a lot because we would always fight. And so they said I was an angry child. I think it was just like I just didn't have control. I was just very emotional. And so, but then my dad's side, he's very loving, very patient, but he's full of life. So at a young age, they said I love dancing. So we have a couple old school songs that I love dancing to, like there's one called Juan Camine, yo soy Juan Camine, but all these songs. And so they said I pretty much was born dancing, and so I think that's where I get my energy. I love dancing. It's Latino culture, socializing, music and laughter. But lifeguarding actually started from my swimming career. So I grew up swimming when we were in ninth grade. We didn't know how to swim. We would always go to the pool. It's a big thing. I'm actually writing this little thing about it, but California's public swimming pools are a big thing, just like they are everywhere else. But there's a lot of public pools there in California, so we'd always go to the pool. And the person who influenced us was actually my older brother Marco. That he may not be, hopefully here as a guest.
We got him in the lineup.
Yeah,
We're manifesting
yeah.
it. We're manifesting
so,
it.
so, but we all went to the same high school, Venice High School, where they filmed Grease, Go Gondoliers, and so he was actually somehow got into the swim team when he was young, and there's here is not that big. Latinos, besides the joke of most of us made it here from swimming across the river.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to hear that or not, but he just he grew up in a culture where Latinos didn't swim really. They weren't surfers. He was one of the first surfers in California in that time in the 80s. So there wasn't a lot. They used to some of the essays and homeboys used to actually tell him like, hey, what are you doing surfing? We're hanging out with the white guys because only white people. But he got into swimming at a swim class. Venice High School offered a ninth grade swimming class. So he interested him, and I guess he naturally took to it. So one of the coaches at that time, Coach Einberg, I still remember her name. She saw potential in him, and so she actually trained him and got him ready for the swim team. So he joined the swim team. So when we grew up, our brother always pushed us to say, "Hey, y'all should learn how to swim." So then me and my brother James, we joined our ninth grade swim or like our freshman swim class, and she was there. She's actually the same teacher, and so we were swimming. We couldn't even make it across the pool. Right, we would see. There's this one guy that we saw swim a bunch of laps, and we thought he was like the best swimmer, and just because he could swim a bunch of laps, but we just didn't have no concept of just making it across seemed like impossible. And she saw us like struggling, and somehow she came up to us. She said, "Hey," and so this is 10 years later. Marco graduated like 1990. So this is 2000 or like 1998. He graduated like so it's like almost 10 years later. She said, "Hey, did y'all have an older brother? Your name looks Torres." And we're like, "Yeah, Marco." She goes, "Marco?" She goes, "He was my student." And she remembered him. And from that point on, seriously, she said, "What?" And so then that whole semester, she would pull us aside and say, "Hey, you need to do this. You need to worry about, it's all about floating. It's all about being comfortable in the water, turning your head." And she taught us the fundamentals. And we just then progressed. And then she said, "Hey, these kids have potential." She introduced us to the swim team coach. And so the swim team coach saw we had potential. And he said, "Hey, how long y'all been swimming?" We said, we just learned this semester." So then he said, "All right, cool." So then the swim team was actually kind of like a little gang at the high school. They were 10 plus years city champions. So it was like a very prestigious team there. Like we had records. It was like a close knit community. It really was like a little crew, like a fraternal sorority order. It's like definitely a very very for us it was like a family. And so he said, "All right, in order to be better, you should go if you really want to succeed and be like one of the better swimmers, you need to go to a year-round swim team." So a year-round swim team is when you start paying money. It's like baseball, you go to baseball camp. So a year-round swim team is when you go with coaches that refine your strokes. And so these are the kids that end up going to colleges, get scholarships, make state and nationals and stuff. So we ended up joining the local team, which is called Team Santa Monica, TSM. And so me and my brother started going there, and then from that it literally propelled us from being like just average swimmers to then being one of the top swimmers on the swim team. And my brother James, actually, who I grew up with, ended up being the swim team captain our senior year. So we were literally like we were one that we brought in points, and so it pushed us to that level. So after high school, I got at 16. I got one of my first jobs working as a locker attendant, which is they don't have them here in Charleston, but locker attendant is you're just in charge of a locker room, putting up bags and stuff like that. And I got some funny stories about that too. But from there, I saw that I wanted to kind of be a lifeguard because they were kind of cool. They're all, everyone looked good. They're all like in, tan and in the suits, and they're respected as respected officials there. So one of my friends who everyone was a year or two older than me, most of my friends, like my brother's age, and so he was already a lifeguard. So he's like, "Yeah, you just need to go to lifeguard academy and become a lifeguard." So I said, okay. So I took a lifeguarding class and my senior year, and I ended up passing it. And then when I passed it, I was able to get my first job as a lifeguard. And so that led me to my whole teaching lifeguards. So lifeguards are actually the water safety instructors. They're usually the ones who teach in like not only lifeguarding stuff. So then that led me into me teaching classes and lifeguarding. And then that from there, a friend of mine who's now is like a he ended up becoming, he's actually was a Navy SEAL. This guy Jimmy Vu, I think he was like the second Korean in the history of the U.S. Of the military forces to become a special forces guy. He actually was like, "Yo, let's go be a beach guard," and I was like, "Man, I don't know how to do that. That's like legit status." And he's like, "No."
Yeah.
And this guy was tough, man. He was a runner. I was a
Mm-hmm.
swimmer, so he's like, "I'll help you running, and you help me swim." So we trained together, and I got him. I helped him out with the swimming, and so I think it was 18 or 19 at the time. And then we went, and then to become a beach lifeguard, it's even harder. You have to compete against like a group of people, and you have to run a certain amount, swim in water all the way up to this buoy, and then swim back. And the water is cold in California. It's the shelf coast is farther away, so the water is heavier and colder. So the water it could be dead summer, and it'll be at 60 degrees. And so we did it, and I ended up placing pretty well. And him and me both got a job at this beach called Cabrillo Beach, and so that led me to learning a lot more, becoming not only just a lifeguard but a lifeguard instructor. I did junior guards camp, and so I've been in I guess if I'm almost 40 now, it's been over 20 years of more than half my life, lifeguarding and training in an aquatics environment, I guess. So when I moved here, I was like, man, I'm been lifeguarding, been teaching the lifeguarding and swimming for years. I was like, what's there? So I found out that there was a city aquatic system and the county, which ran all the beaches. And so I showed up for a career day. I met Nikki Bowie, who she's still the head person for all the county lifeguards, all anything county aquatics, all the water parks, and she's the head. And so she pretty much hired me, and then I also joined the city of Charleston and the aquatics division, became like an assistant manager pretty much full time. And so that's what kind of led me into. So when you met me, I was working at that time as a water. The position here is called water safety instructor. So there's a lifeguard position, and then the water safety instructor position is kind of like a full timer position, and they're the ones who are in charge of like teaching. One of your jobs tasks is teaching lifeguarding classes, and if you can, but also doing swim lessons. And so that led me into more teaching swim lessons and on a daily basis, and as well as lifeguarding classes, because I enjoy lifeguarding and teaching it and stuff like that. It's like teaching people how to save lives.
Yeah.
It's an
And then
important skill.
and then you got your associate's degree in
California.
California.
So I always had a hard time, which is I guess is a common thing. So as you said, I'm full of energy. I'm always one of my I guess my focuses were always pointed in the wrong direction. I'm very sociable. I love just being around people and going out. And so I guess in college I took it more for the socializing more so than actually like focusing on classes and courses, which I actually was talking to my wife about that. It's you can't have too many regrets in life, because we're here where we are now, so you just have to learn from but I guess now looking back, I had some great professors, but yeah, so I joined the swim team and water polo team, and my focuses were more just socializing. I didn't really have focus. I just didn't know what I wanted to do. My brother at that time was just finished law school, and so I was like, maybe I want to be, going to that. So I did, so I had a minor in a lot. I just kept switching my minors, and so I would take some time off school and just work full time, and so eventually I said, all right, I just need to at least get my associate, and then from there see what I want to do. Instead of like I don't want to be like a 10-year college student. And so I ended up going to a smaller college, didn't have a team or anything. It was called West LA College. And then I just focused on just something basic, liberal arts and study, and so liberal arts and sciences. And so from there, I just picked that and got my associates. And then at that point, actually, and that's good you brought that up, because at that point, my brother Marco here saw that I kind of wanted to leave, because I was born and raised in Los Angeles, which is great. I have a lot of friends still there, but I feel like I was in this bubble, and I need to grow. And I truly believe that most people need to leave their nest egg or where they grew up in order to develop and grow. If you kind of stay in the same place, and this is just from my own experiences, it's hard to see outside or for yourself to grow. And since I was the youngest of 5, my mom had a hard time birthing me. She actually almost died giving birth to me. And so I think she held me really tight. And so I feel like I know for me to grow, I had to leave. And so my brother, who lived here, him and his wife had just bought a house on Bogart Street in the peninsula. And so they gave me an opportunity. Said, hey, I see you're about to finish. I had just got my associates. Said, oh, you just got your associates. They have a good college here. Would you be interested in possibly just moving here and checking it out? And I was kind of helping you because they knew I was kind of struggling to see what I wanted to do with myself. And so I was like, yeah, I need to just leave LA. I just felt like I had enough of LA. I needed to grow. A lot of my friends, fortunately, I grew up in rough areas, you know, with Crips and Bloods, with gangs, and you know, it's fun, but at the same time, just crazy. The city that never sleeps. And me, myself, I was always tempted to go more so with the partying scene. You know, I was a big raver for a long time, which is another lifetime. And so I just wanted to change of pace to see if I could find who I am. So my brother gave me an opportunity. So I said, let's go. I came to visit. I loved it. I said, oh, it's warm. It has a beach.
Yeah.
I said, okay, I love the feel. And so so he gave me an opportunity in 2009 to move. And I remember it's in February. I decided officially I'm moving. I had a Mazda Tribute. I put my bike, everything I had, my belongings, and I drove cross country 2.5 days. It took me to get here, from sea to shining sea, and that was in 2009. And when I moved, I never looked back. So.
And what did you find to be one of the, because I know it's a big change, right? Los Angeles and South Carolina, California and South Carolina. What did you, looking back and reflecting on that transition, what do you think was like one of your biggest learnings about yourself, having moved from kind of like that nest home and going out and trying to discover who you are?
Yeah, it's a good question. I guess it's biggest thing is finding out friends first. I always had thousands of friends over there. I was always able to do something. So first, it's like, all right, what's my purpose here? The same formula is not working, wasn't working for me. Just so what do I want to do? What do I want? The biggest thing is finding out what I wanted to do. So, I found out that people here are a lot nicer. It was me finding out that I finding myself and what I wanted to do in life, and my own personality, and it with me not knowing anything. So it's just the hardest part, I guess, was getting used to being uncomfortable somewhere that was new to me. And I feel like then I had to reflect on who I was and what I wanted to do, I guess, with my life, and started career paths. And so I jumped into what I knew best with this aquatics. But then I found out that just meeting people and learning and growing and continue to be who I thought I was one of the keys to being comfortable and to growing. So I guess learning how to fight through adversity without any help, I guess, was the hardest part. Kind of like when you went to Oklahoma, whatever. It's like when you don't have a blanket to fall on. That's the hardest part for me. Was I always had a blanket to fall on, or my mom there, my parents. So it's like here, it's like I'm on my own. I had Marco and Claire who were always there, but at the same time, I feel like I was done asking for help. And so I then said, all right, I need to find out solutions for myself without asking for help, and the only person to do it is me. And so I think that was my biggest learning experience.
Did you ever feel pressure from your family to change a career, or to like say, hey, like what if you could do this? Or did you ever feel them imposing their ideas as far as like what your life should be / should, what you should work towards?
Yes, of course. I think it's especially for the Latino community. Oh yeah, I remember now. It's bless your heart. When they say bless your heart,
Yeah.
they're just being nice. But anyway, uh, um, yes, I feel like in our Latino commercial, they always push education, being college degree, because a lot of, especially first generation Latinos, maybe some people that haven't been to college. So I feel like it's really stressful. My parents were like, go to college, that's the key. Which now they're saying that's maybe not the key. Maybe going to trade school, doing something else is the key, instead of building $40,000-$60,000 of student debt. But my parents are always about going to school. So of course my two oldest brothers did, and my brother I grew up with, he eventually got his degree as well. But that was their focus. So they said just go to, maybe not be a doctor or be a law attorney or be something, an engineer, but it was go to college, go to college. And I think that was my hard part, was I didn't take college for what it was. And maybe I feel like and I graduated high school when I was 16 too. So I
Oh,
graduated a little
wow.
earlier. And so I think I was still kind of growing up and enjoying it. And I feel like my mind wasn't ready to be pushed in that direction. And I feel like that's why I always kind of like butted heads with college myself
Mm-hmm.
personally. And so, yes, they never said a career, but they always said you need to be something different. You need to be something different. And so that was, you need to go college and do something. And so when I moved here, it was mostly like, all right, get your act together, find out something that's suitable for you. And so, um, uh, finish college if you need to do something, but find something that you want to do. And so that was more like their thought pattern at that point, more so than this specific career.
What advice would you give to someone that's in a position where they love what they do and they find a lot of joy in it, but for whatever reason, they feel some societal pressure to go? A good example would be to go to college, or, I think the pressure of, oh man, I got to be a millionaire like next year. What am I doing? Kind of stepping back and understanding their process and their journey. What advice would you give to someone?
So it's hard because the society is based on how much you make, right?
Yep.
Like you said, um, it's kind of measured at that. But at the same time, when you die, you don't take any money with you. It's like, what do you do with it? So, and then everyone has their own social, personal beliefs. So I would say if you love what you do, there's always a way to compensate more money. It's hard to be, and that's the problem. It's why are we having such a hard time with teachers, with getting good teachers or filling the teacher role, because a teacher cannot afford to buy a house making $30,000 a year nowadays. And so there's a lot of people who could be great teachers, but the funds aren't there for them to want to teach, because
Mm-hmm.
they see, or social work. We need a lot of social workers, but when you're getting paid minimum wage or not that much, a lot of people choose a career that they might not like or feel fulfilling, but it pays more. So it's hard. But there's always ways to see what you could do. If you love what you're doing, try to find a way to either grow your business, or find something that on the side. There's a lot of side hustles that you could do to possibly compensate for what you're lacking. But but then again, a lot of people feel like they need to do what they want to do, so it's kind of hard.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, I feel like that's just a problem generationally and from society. It's there's a lot of great positions that people love, that feel fulfilling, but they just can't do it because they feel like they need to make more money. And so I guess, and then that comes to issues like, how do we make reforms, to be able to help people and give
Mm-hmm.
people incentives to do what they want to do and love
Yeah.
doing. So if you're not gonna love what you do all the time, but then again, you also gotta look at life as in, I feel like you have to enjoy the process.
Yep.
So and enjoy, and try to enjoy what you're doing in life, whether it's, you know uh, you gotta enjoy what you're doing, and try to make the best of it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're super unhappy, and then find a way to get out of it, right? I feel like
Mm.
that's our own issues. And so, and not everyone thinks like that. Some people just like living certain, standards of life, and are happy doing that. And
Yep.
some people want to pursue more, and that's just human nature as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
So,
it's definitely all about preferences and
mm,
how you view life. I think that's something that I've been working through personally, and I've been trying to remain extremely cognizant and aware of it, and that's success. How you define success. And for a while, I think for years and years of my life, whenever I talk about someone, I'd be like, "Oh, that person is successful. Oh, this successful person." And then as of recently, I think with this podcast, but also a few things that have changed in my life, I was kind of like, okay, why am I saying successful? Like, why am I saying, oh, yeah, this person succeeded? Like, what does that mean? And I think that that's something that I've been trying to define for myself, for my career, for my future, for my life, right? what does success mean? And for a while, I tied it to a financial status, and that's kind of,
Driving
where
a
it goes back.
Lamborghini, like,
Yeah,
yeah, look
yeah,
at me
yeah.
spending, look at me buying my,
Yeah.
what do I call it, my goose shoes,
Yeah.
my golden goose shoes. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
is that success? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think for a while that's what it was. Like I for a while the individuals that I define as successful had a lot of materialistic things and their net worth was higher, right? Properties. But I've been trying to remain a little more cognizant of, oh, that person is successful. Okay, what does that mean? So here's my question to you. How do you define success?
Success is, for me, would be a place where, of course, a financial success, if you're just going to be technically, it's where you create enough passive income to pay for your daily expenditures, so you don't have to worry about money. I guess that's like one form of success, financially success, or financial freedom as they call it. Like Dave Ramsey's financial freedom. But I guess that's one level of success. But success, I guess, will be to be satisfied with who you are and what you have, and to truly be happy with what you're doing and who you are. I feel like that's your own personal success in your life. And some people's goals might be to strive to be, like say, a millionaire or to have all these assets. For me, it would be able to be able to give to my family and take care of them and put a roof over their head. That could be a simple success. For me, that's still being successful. But in a personal sense, just being happy with who you are. That's one of the best successes in life.
Yeah.
So.
And do you think your definition of that has changed as like throughout different chapters of your life?
Of course, of course. When I was younger, it was success was finding out who the who I could party with and to go and to get invited to the next VIP shindig and then how many friends do you have? I've always been a person who I'm someone who loves. I've always been a very nurturing person. I love people. And so I've always wanted to get like that love back, and so that's kind of like one of my natures. I'm very giving and very loving, and so I've always wanted the maybe not so much the attention, but the affection back from people. I've always wanted people to like me back, and so that could be that's a double-edged sword, because then you're always trying to please people, but at the same time maybe you overlook your own self to please someone. So when I was younger, it was all about how how me and Bill were known for throwing big parties and just inviting all these people and just giving. But I never really got I got friendships and cool memories in return, but not anything truthful, like anything that substance that I could take with me. Besides the memories, and so that was my younger self. And then when I moved here, it was like, all right, success is me just getting rid of all my debt and finding a job that's stable and trying to grow. So that was when I first moved here. That was in my 20s, in my early 20s. And then now that in my age, for me, it now has changed. It's how do I provide for my family, as well as make enough where I could hopefully make a small change in the world, whether it's starting a nonprofit or contributing to one to philanthropic work to help one of the causes I believe in, but and just to try to truly be happy with myself and helping others. That's always been one of my goals. Family and helping others is I feel like is my definition of who I want to strive to be.
Yeah, that and I think that's, I don't know. I think at my age, I'm still accepting that I'm evolving every
Always.
single day. And I think you wake up on a Monday and you're like, okay, this is who I am. And then on Friday, it's like, it's completely changed. You know what I mean? So it's just like the ability to allow yourself to change and to understand that although some of the characteristics of who you were when you first moved out of home, you still have them now, but who you are now is very different from who you were then. And to allow yourself that grace and that patience and to appreciate, and as you say, often like trust your journey and your process and to also enjoy it, which I think is extremely important. had your career,
Yeah.
you had your first career,
Yeah.
and then you transitioned out.
Yeah. So, and actually going back to that, to what you said about the journey, there's a quote I have. So I believe in making like a wall with things you want and things you like, and just like kind of, that's my own practice to kind of like motivate me. But I have a quote from Swaza, and he says that it's a whole saying, but at the end, the main focus, he says, is he found out in life through his travels is happiness is in a place. It isn't a destination. Happiness is the journey. And so that's, I think people say, I'm gonna be happy if I reach this place or if I do this, but it's the journey you have to appreciate and be happy with it. And so I try to instill that. But yeah, for my career, so I was okay. So you can only make a certain amount of money with us working, W-2, and it's fine. So I said, okay, well, that time I was working part-time this job, part-time that job, and then I got tired of working at the beach because I've been working lifeguarding and was kind of getting burnt out just doing just straight lifeguarding when I was working full-time for the city. So then a friend of mine, he owns a beach and chair rental company, and it was expanding, growing, and we became friends. And so I met him on the beach in Folly. So he's like, hey, you want to work in my company? And he paid pretty well. And then that led me to him saying, hey, I'll offer you a full-time position there. But I was working summers there. I was just working 2 or 3 jobs. And then my passion, actually, besides who I am, loving dancing, trying to truly be a positive person, I love martial arts. I've been practicing since I was 13, karate, different forms, and now I focus mostly on kickboxing and a little bit of Brazilian jiu-jitsu. But I love martial arts. I feel like that helped me with my passion of being who I am, as in I do believe I am a Christian, but I also have like the fundamentals of a warrior, like virtue and stuff like that. They kind of coincide. Just how to be a better person is, I think, is one of the goals in life, and to help others. And so because of my martial arts practice, a friend of mine who I trained with at that time, I was aspiring to try to be an amateur fighter. He was a fighter himself in Charleston. He was a bouncer, and so he said, hey man, I could get you a job. I was a small guy, but he's like, I know you can handle yourself. So, and he was a small guy too. So he ended up helping me get my first job, working as a bouncer downtown. And so that where I would work at night. So the only way I saw for me to get to where I needed to was to create more money. So at that point, it was just working as much as I can. So I worked all the time, and then my car died. So then I was riding a bike. Actually, at one point in my life, I was riding a bike like 30 miles a day from West Ashley to downtown to James Island, working 3 different jobs. In rain, I would have extra clothes in my bag and just put my raincoat on. Through rainstorms, I would bike over the bridges. And so at one point, I was doing just working. I got at one point, I was so sick that the doctors, actually, I was sick for like months straight. And the doctor was like, yo, how much you sleep? I said, like 2 hours a day. I work day and night. And he's like, man, you need to rest. But I was like, all right, the only way to get forward is to make enough money where then I can start saving. So then fast forward to me, kind of at that time, I met my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time. We were friends. But when we started dating, she was like, yo, you working yourself to death. Like, you working all the time. And I was, 3 or 4 jobs. And I said, I gotta do what I gotta do. And she's like, well, and she's actually the one that said, why don't you become like you're already working all these service jobs. You've always worked a job where you're helping others, whether it's lifeguarding and teaching, lifeguard instructor, be a real estate agent. And I said, man, I had a friend who was an agent at that time. And I was like, man, isn't there like everyone's a real estate agent? I was like, how, that's what you think. I was like, man, I don't know what I'm doing. And she was like, you probably be good at it. So she's actually the first one to plant the seed. And I actually rejected. I was like, everyone's an agent. Like, and I was like back in 2018 and 2017. So then I thought about it, and then someone else, like, it was in my head, and I talked to my parents about it, and they said, yeah, you'd probably be good at it. Why don't you try it? It's a people thing. You also need to know your product, which is properties. But then I said, you know what? Let me go ahead and that talk. Oh yeah, a swimmer who used to come swim at the pool all the time. He was like one of a real successful agent on James Island. And so he said, man, I asked him, and he said, yeah, man. He goes, you probably be a good agent, man. He goes, just go try it out. Because if you talk to people who aren't doing too well, they go, "Oh man, it's hard. It's hard." I don't know, man. It's like they don't want competition. But people who are real successful, I've learned, they're not scared of competition. They have their brand and they're real successful. So it like depends on who you are. So it's like the real successful agents, they're not scared. There's enough bread to go around. It's whether you could go out there and get your own piece. And so he told me, he goes, man, just try it out, man. And then he told me a great advice too. He said, you should, if when you start off, he goes, maybe just don't be an individual agent unless you got connections, because it's hard to learn. You have to learn the trade. He's like, maybe join a team where someone helps you out and walks. So then I was like, okay. So then I said, you know what? Let me go ahead and take this. I'm not sure 100% what I want to do. I thought I was going to be a full-time, like start my own swim program or do something that I was used to. But at the same time, I wanted to see if I could do something different with myself. And so my friend at that time who owned the beach company, he said, let me go ahead, and he goes, I'll give you a salary job where you help me run the company, but I'll pay you enough where you could work year round. And because one of the hardest parts is expensive to start real estate, and a lot of people they don't tell you that it's only like $1,000 to get your salesperson license, like to take the courses, get the books. But usually people on average, the average agent sells 3 properties a year, let alone when you first start off, they say you make no money for the first 3 to 6 months. They said you should have like a pillow or blanket for that. So he said, hey, I'll pay you salary so you work your butt off during the summer, but I'll pay you salary so you still get paid throughout the year. So then that year I decided, okay, what I'll do is I'll work my butt off, and then I'll take this class, finish it, and then start at the end of the year, and I'll still be getting paid for me to then start this path in real estate. And so I actually planned it out, and it worked out perfect. So because a lot of people really do have a hard time. I mean, it's like it's not an easy industry to get into. And so I listened to the people who I thought were right. My wife was like, I told you should have started, but I took my doubting myself. Just you always doubt yourself. You always listen to all the negative, what people say, all the haters. And so I said, all right, took the course, and I ended up loving real estate. Like I ended up just enjoying it. And I saw that there was like something there for you to build you up. I even had a hard time buying our first house. I thought we couldn't even do it. Like, it's like all these myths and all these doubts. And I was like, man, but I saw that it was not only is one of the oldest, biggest products, but it's like the history of it kind of goes cool. People started owning land at first. Only royalty and nobility owned land, and then writing titles came from like the king of England. He's the first person to say, "All right, I'm tired of how all these land disputes." He said, "All right, he says, she says. Instead of that, we're gonna write it down, and now we have a record of who actually owns this land." So that's how titles and stuff. So we still practice that same, the same format that was started hundreds of years ago in England of passing titles down through land, through titles. And anyways, I actually enjoyed it, and I saw like, whoa, this is doable. And so after I was gun ho after I finished that class. I could do this. I really do love what I'm learning. And so then that's how I started my career. I planned it that year. I worked hard all summer. Finished my my hardcore summer job, and then jumped into real estate. That same year in 2019. I was starting my profession. I haven't looked back since. So I haven't looked back. If anything, trying to keep growing. You gotta look forward, right? Yeah. You reminisce the past, but it's yeah. So yes, and haven't looked back since. Yeah.
How did you, it being new and different? Well, kind of different, right? Because there's similarities with your past experiences. How did you find yourself adapting? Like because there's a lot of inner conversations that go within your mind, right?
Yeah.
Of, I am capable of doing this. Like, I can do this. Like, everything that I've done before has prepared me for this. What were those inner conversations like? Just building your confidence and like trust within yourself.
Yeah, so biggest thing is I had some good mentors when I first started off. And I've worked a lot of jobs. I worked with my dad for a few years doing landscaping. So I've worked a lot of hard jobs where it's just physically hard. But it's the perseverance of saying, can I do this? And then I had really good mentor. My first broker was a really good mentor. He helped. So I did what that one successful agent told me to do. Said, hey, get with the team and they'll walk you through your first processes, because to get your license, you just need to memorize the book, but it's not actual the way you practice real estate. So the practicing of it is completely different. So they teach you something to pass your licensing exam, but all that stuff doesn't really come into play until you want to become a broker, until you it's just you learn all these things that you don't really practice. Like you have to learn a little bit of law, a little bit of math, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But once you become a real estate agent, the attorneys do anything that's legal, the lenders do anything that's math related or whatever. You need to know the basics. But the practice of it is completely different, because now you're worried about, it's all about transactions with people. So the first thing I had to do was feel confident in myself, in the way I spoke to others, and just, you're gonna have a lot of doubts. So you make a lot of calls when you first. It's called prospecting. The one of the things in real estate he says, you have a funnel. The goal is to, you have people who are ready, people who might be ready in 2 or 3 months, and then everyone else who like might not or might not. So you got to keep filling the funnel. And the minute that the funnel gets empty, that's when you don't have sales. So the consistency of it is always trying to keep it full with people ready now, people ready 3 to 6 months, and then just new prospects. So you got to make a lot of calls. So the first thing you got to do is get over your head. So my mentor really taught me, he's like, all right, he was into affirmation. So he's the first one got me into listening to a lot of like motivational speakers, you know, Tim Robbins, and then, you know, I started reading books, you know, How to Be a Millionaire, I'll Teach You to Be Rich, you know, and just a lot of like motivational speaks, you know, I can, I will, I must, you know, I am motivations, and just get out of your head. So your head's your biggest, you know, it's your biggest fan, but most time your head and your mind is your worst enemy. And so when you start making calls, you're nervous, just like, you know, when we were discussing earlier about your podcast, just getting used to it. So it was uncomfortable. You're sitting there and you're like, hey, my name is, and then I wouldn't say Joel Torres, because I'll say, Joel who? You know, I'll say, hey, my name's Joel Torres, Joel Torres, or hey, my name's Joel, I work with, you know, A Bean Company, can I help you? You know, it's like, how do you start the conversation? So a lot of times you get hang-ups. People will be like, F you. You know, people just, yeah, it's, so then you have to, then you start doubting yourself. You say, am I even good at this? And so, but then you start getting more comfortable working calls. Then you start getting more comfortable trying to, you know, navigate around a no. Is it no right now? Is it no just because, like, is there something else that I can help you with? You know, what's the issue? And then you start learning, and so then you start learning how to talk to people and how to be comfortable with getting rejected. So that's the biggest thing, was rejection. Who like getting rejected, right? We have barriers for that, right? We have levels. Some people have like enough, like an onion. They feel, so it's like how do you get used to rejection is the biggest thing, and doubt. And so I guess that was the first thing I had to. And so my first broker helped me kind of say, all right, it's not you. Everyone deals with this. This is something that everyone deals with. You just have to get out of your head and just do it. And then I noticed that sometimes when I called someone 2 or 3 times, and they didn't pick up, but last time they just hung up on me, or they yelled at me, I was like, but never told me no. And so I was like, let me call one more time. And then I would be scared to call them. And then like, I'll be all these doubts in my head. And I was like, I'll just send them a text. And then that one time I called them, they'd actually pick up and be in a good mood. Maybe last time I spoke to them, they had something going on, right? We don't know. It's like you judging someone who cuts you off. I had to learn this too. Someone cuts you off on the road. What if someone just died? What if they just got fired? What if something happened where they're in a bad mood and they cut you off? Now you're gonna scream at them and try to cut them off and beep at them, and then you yourself you're letting your own bubble get agitated, and you're getting upset over something that you don't know if that person had a bad day. So it's like you can't. It's like, so I had to learn. All right, maybe that person. But then I've called, and then they all of a sudden they're way more receptive. They're like, yeah, I'm actually trying to get ready, but I don't know the process. And then I'm like, oh well, that's what I'm here for. I'm here as a guide. We're here. I'm not here in the end. We're here as to help the public, educate them, whether they buy, whether they help someone buy. We're here to educate the public to make the best informed decision they can. And so that's what then my approach I started going to. This is about transaction with people. And then that helped kind of build, all right, this is who I am, who I want to be. And then of course I had a couple of different teams that taught me different things. And so you just have to grow with yourself and be more comfortable in your own skin and take rejection and be comfortable with it. Yeah.
And how do you how do you be comfortable with rejection? I know it's a heavy question, but
Yeah.
I
in relationship wise, they said, hey, if you ask 10 girls to go on a date, one of them might say yes, you know. So just keep going. No, it's you just have to be, you just have to, I guess, n- know that take the punches per speaking, and just know that a lot of times you're gonna rejection is a part of life. Every champion has lost. True champions have lost one or twice. It's how you get back up. What do you do once you do get rejected? The door slammed in your face. What do you do to get back up and continue going? If you fail, do you get back up again? And so it's one of those things. I feel like you just have to brush it off and say, all right, on to the next one. Let's keep going, and eventually you find that one person that's ready to go, and you're like, whoa, I actually did this, or actually. And so I guess you have to not hold it to yourself too hard, and then take the good with the bad, as they say. So
what do you think the younger version, so what do you think 16-year-old, let's say 16 to 18-year-old Joel Torres would think of the person you are today?
I think he'd be like, "Who are you?" Yeah, that time I didn't know what I wanted to be. So, truthfully, I think he wouldn't believe where he's at now. I guess with his friends, with his wife, who I just, I guess I was like just wandering the world without any purpose, and I think that was the hardest part. And now I feel like I have purpose, even though sometimes things get tough. I still have people and purposes that motivate me, and so I think I'd be like, man, did I really become that person? I guess that would be me. It's like, I said at 16, 18, I was like, I was a big partier. So I would have been there with my visor, and my glow sticks, and be like, who's this guy, with this, with these nice pants, or, whatever. But I think I would not recognize myself, but at the same time, maybe I always knew I wanted to be something else. But at that time, just my focus wasn't in the future, I guess. So yeah, I'd be surprised. I'd be like, is that my brother Marco?
That's funny.
Marco always knew what he wanted to be, so he was very I feel like he's always had a strong passion. So, and I admire that. So I guess I always knew I wanted to be something else, but I just had no direction.
We got to know a little bit about the beginning, right?
Yeah.
The becoming of Joel Torres, a little bit about what you're doing now. So I think it's something, and I'm glad you brought up affirmations, because it's something that I'm trying to adopt in my life a bit more on a daily basis. But who are you moving towards? Like, you're working every day, you're trying to be a better person, as I can tell already. You're very intentional, and I think pursuing anything in life requires a disciplined level of intentionality. You don't just wake up and you're like, oh, I made it. It just doesn't work like that. Life doesn't work like that. So who are you working towards? What does Joel in 10 years? Who is Joel in 10 years?
Hopefully, maybe I got a couple, I guess a kid pass by, something me and my wife have on the works. But I guess it's someone who I want to be in the eye. And it's actually, I answered myself this question a few weeks ago, and I have a friend who's, it's important too. He's like my accountability partner. He's a very successful person. He's a friend. We're in an old team together. So but I've realized that I want to be a coach, a mentor, and hopefully in 10 years, I'm successful enough where I could dedicate more of my time to not only providing for my family and help when needed, but to be a mentor to the younger generation, and to also be a coach. I love teaching. That's always been a passion of mine, whether it was aquatics or now real estate. If someone needs help with something real estate wise, I'm always, if I know the the answer if I could help out. Some of my friends still call me for answers for stuff. I love reading documents and stuff like that, and so just helping others. So being a mentor coach, I think it's going to be my one of my future or my end goal. Besides, always you can always do real estate. That's something you could always do till you're old. But I think being a coach and a mentor is my ultimate goal in life. So still helping others, and that's kind of where I'm actually where I push my professional, not like real estate helping people out, but that kind of leads me into kind of where I'm doing now. It's like a year ago I joined this leadership program that got me to really understand in order to make change you have to be behind the scenes.
Yep.
The people who actually make the changes, like the lawmakers and legislative, and so that led me into finding out that I want to be more immersed within my Charleston Realtor community. So from that, I joined a couple of different programs, but one of the groups, there's 3 groups within the Realtor Association. One of them is the Global Business Chapter. Shout out to my GBC crew, but the president-elect at the time was going to be the president. He asked me he saw the energy I brought and me trying to work with the Latino community. So he asked me to be a director, sit on the board of directors for that. And that led me into seeing how things are done behind the scenes. So from there, I joined different communities, the D&I community, the committees, the roof committee, which is for one of my passions is I want to be able to contribute more to our housing committee that funds programs, initiatives to help affordable housing, people who need affordable housing, which is a big passion of mine as well. And so from that, I saw what things could be, how things are done. And so a colleague of mine said, "Hey, you should apply to be, one of the on the big table is called one of the board of directors for Charleston Association, which it's like the highest official position where you could be, and usually people who are there have tons of experience." But I went there as I am, and I said, "Look, I don't really. I'm still new in the game. I've only been in it for like 4.5 years. Some of y'all have been in it for over decades, but this is what I bring to the table, and passionate about helping people out. I feel like that's who I am, and that's what led me into getting my broker's license. Not only just a salesperson, I went and put a lot of education to getting all these credentials, certificates, designations, and I went back and got the ultimate licensee for real estate, which is a broker's license, and so I'm a broker associate as well. But that led me into taking an interview, and they actually just nominated me. So I'm actually going to be the new 2024. I'm one of the board of directors for the Charleston Association of Realtors. So it's I'm still kind of like wrapping my head around it. I know it's they oversee everything going on in the Realtor Association here in Charleston. So I actually see all these people who have been pushing me and who see my energy, and my colleagues who I myself want to be like some of them. They're super successful, and I see them now pushing me and backing me up. So I feel like they there's something there to be said that they see potential in me. And so my goal is to hopefully keep learning, keep growing, and try to make a positive change within the community as I grow. So.
I enjoy that vision. I appreciate that vision a lot, just because I think I have I think a fear of complacency personally. So whenever listening to other individuals talk about this is where I'm going and I am excited for my future and I'm excited for what's to come, it's motivating and encouraging and inspiring, extremely inspiring. So I would like to just take some time to thank you for sharing your story, your experiences, what life was like in Los Angeles as a young catracho, right? And then what it was like to move, and then what you're doing now and how you're combining your passions with a career, I think is extremely admirable. And I think anyone that's doing what they love is encouraging, and I think it's provides a lot of hope for our future as a society, but also as people, to know that there are individuals such as yourself out here that have a desire to coach and mentor, because it's definitely something that I personally need, right? But also other people too. So I'm really grateful. Thank you so much for your time. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for your wisdom. Thank
No,
you so
thank you
much
for
for
having
your
me.
advice. I really appreciate it.
It was fun. Yeah, thank you. I had a great time.
Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
different. I will say it's
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. So.
But I'm super grateful. This is Ali, Atrévete a lo imposible with Joel Torres.